In 1920, Paul Darwin Foote, a respected scientist in his time, in what would later become assumed to be an effort of scientific comedy, mathematically proved that hell is colder than heaven. Since that time, scientists involved in the study of thermodynamics have taken opportunities to shoot down his idea, disproving, if you will, mathematically the satirical efforts of Mr. Foote. While many people will say that math proves everything, it's not always the case in abstract theory. And in fact, this subject has interested me for the better part of 2 decades. I've spent a great deal of time contemplating the validity of cultural and historical ideas on the subject. You may ask why any of this matters. Why does it matter whether or not hell is cold? My response is simply that the best way to make informed decisions, prepare for future events, and prevent making certain mistakes is to have the right perspective about what's to come. Ladies and gentlemen, hell is cold. In scriptural texts from many religions, Christianity, Islam, even Judaism, we can derive the idea that hell is like a lake of fire and brimstone, a place of hot torment. It's the traditional way that we look at hell, or the place that you might have learned to call hell. The Greeks thought similarly, and some scholars believe that it may have been their influence in later translations in some of the holy texts that we read that led to an adoption of this vision we've traditionally held about this least desirable of all places. However, we know that the original concept, at least in the Jewish and Christian tradition, developed from a reference regarding the valley of the son of Hinnom, known as Gehenna. It was south of Jerusalem, which many historians claim was the original site where child sacrifices to the pagan god idol Moloch were performed. Gehenna was known, in addition to its plentiful woodlands, to contain sulphurous, hot springs, which, in addition to the screams of dying children and the flames of sacrificial blazes, may have made for a very hellish picture indeed. Yet, taking what we know about God and the interactions of people with Him and His Spirit, it stands to reason that heaven, the seat of all light and knowledge and power, would be a place of warmth and glory. If so, why would a place so far removed from it have any heat at all? We know Satan's all about mimicry, right? Well, have you ever touched something so cold that it burns you? That burning feeling occurs when cells rupture. In the case of burning, the cell membrane literally is melted away, the contents are vaporized, and it touches your nerves, and the nerves say, "Oh my goodness, I'm burning." But when cells freeze, the cell still ruptures. However, it's from an internal pressure that builds to an uncontainable level. Both of these occurrences signal your body to move away from danger, but only one is actually hot. Hell is like that too, at least as we see in its more modern traditional depiction. We've been told for so long that hell is hot, that we don't make a distinction between what we're actually experiencing, or hopefully not experiencing, and what's real. Think about the last time a really creepy person got near you, a person who you could tell was not any good, at least on the outside, a person who had no desire to be near. They look your direction, and what do you feel? Do you feel all warm and tingly, or do you feel cold? Do you feel like this might be a good thing, or do you feel that chill run up your spine? How about when you're doing something you know you shouldn't? Or when you're scared, how often would you say that you feel hot or warm or any of these kind of things? And how much more often in that kind of a situation would you say you feel cold? Almost as though the warmth and light and power are slowly being drained away from you. Hell is like that. In the Book of Mormon, it describes Satan as luring us carefully down to hell, slowly leading us away from warmth, away from the protection and light of God. In his literary work, which became later known as the Divine Comedy, the first third of which you may know very well and commonly as Dante's Inferno, Dante describes hell in what scholars call the punishment of sense, where things are not punished based necessarily on what a person did, but their intent behind it and the love that they have for it over God. The closer you get to the center of hell, he describes, the colder it gets, until you're shown a vision of Satan frozen in the middle of a lake. What Satan sought, what he loved more than God, was his power. So he was given the antithetical equivalent of it, frozen with no warmth and no true power. Consider that for a moment. As a symbol, fire is ever rising, providing warmth, life, and power to those who need it, while cold, freezing cold, sinks and slowly steals from us our ability to act until we are powerless, without feeling, numb and dying, paralyzed, and without the ability to even move to save ourselves. So, what really is more likely? Ladies and gentlemen, hell is cold. The result of the actions it takes to get there is a numbing of mind, body, and spirit that causes us to forget what real warmth is until we no longer yearn for it. But in Satan's infinite cunning, he's found a way to ensure that we think of his final abode as one of fire and terror and power. Don't let his lie continue to be your belief. Turn away from the actions that freeze your spirit and walk towards the warmth, the light, the fire that dwells in the hearts of those who are disciples of God and his Christ. Let his fire fill you and energize you to move forward in accomplishing his work, bringing people out of the cold and into his life. Thank you very much.